Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UNS Liberty, watching the stars through the viewport. His ship cut through space toward the outer colonies, following the same patrol route he had run for 3 years. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Everything felt normal. "Sir, we're getting a distress signal," said Lieutenant Bobby Chen from the communication station. His voice carried worry. "It's from New Portland Colony." Jake turned toward the young officer. New Portland was his sister's home. Amy had moved there 2 years ago to run a medical clinic. She always said the frontier colonies needed good doctors more than Earth did. "Put it through," Jake ordered. Static filled the bridge speakers. Then a broken voice came through. "This is New Portland Emergency Command. We are under attack. Zephyrian forces landed 6 hours ago. They're using gas weapons on civilian areas. Please send help. We can't hold much longer." The message cut to static again. Jake felt his blood turn cold. Gas weapons were banned by the Galactic Peace Treaty. No species had used them in combat for 30 years. The Zephyrians knew better. "Set course for New Portland. Maximum speed," Jake commanded. "Send word to the fleet, we need backup." "Sir, should I contact the Galactic Council?" asked Ensign Mary Walsh from her station. "Do it. Tell them the Zephyrians are breaking treaty laws." The Liberty jumped to faster-than-light speed. Jake paced the bridge, trying not to think about Amy. She was tough. She had survived medical school on Earth. She could handle herself. 3 hours later, they dropped out of hyperspace near New Portland. Jake looked at the planet below and felt sick. Black smoke rose from 3 major cities. No ships moved in orbit. No signals came from the ground. "Sir, I'm reading massive biosigns failure across the planet," reported Science Officer Linda Park. "Population readings are down by 80%. 80%. That meant millions of people were dead." "Take us down to the capital city," Jake ordered. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. The Liberty landed at New Portland's main spaceport. The landing pad was empty except for burned-out ground vehicles. Jake led a team of Marines off the ship wearing full protective gear. The city was silent. Bodies lay in the streets where they had fallen. Men, women, children, all dead from nerve, gas exposure. Their faces were twisted in pain. Jake had seen death before, but nothing like this. "Sir, over here," called Sergeant Pete Davis. He stood near a building marked with a red cross, Amy's clinic. Jake ran toward the building. Inside, he found more bodies. Doctors and nurses had died trying to treat patients. In the back room, he found what he was looking for. Amy lay on the floor next to a small child. She had used her own body to shield the kid from the gas, but it hadn't mattered. Both were dead. Jake knelt beside his sister. Amy's medical bag was open next to her. She had been trying to save people until the very end. That was just like her. "Captain, Sergeant," Davis said quietly. "We found survivors in the underground shelters. About 2,000 people. They want to talk to you." Jake stood up slowly. He looked at his sister one more time, then followed Davis outside. The survivors had gathered in the town square. They looked at Jake with desperate eyes. An old man stepped forward. His name was Frank Miller. Jake remembered Amy mentioning him in her letters. "Captain Morrison," Frank said, "your sister saved my grandson. She got him to the shelter before the gas hit. Amy was a hero." Jake nodded. He couldn't trust his voice to speak. "The Zephyrians came without warning," Frank continued. "They didn't attack military targets first. They went straight for the schools and hospitals. They wanted to kill as many people as possible." A woman named Carol Brown stepped forward. She held a small girl's hand. "They laughed while they did. We could hear them on the radio frequencies. They thought it was funny." Jake felt something change inside him. For 30 years, humans had played by the rules. They followed the treaty laws. They showed mercy to enemies. They protected civilians even when it cost them victories. Where had that gotten them? Dead children, dead doctors, dead sisters. "Sir," Lieutenant Chen's voice came through Jake's communicator. "We're getting reports from other colonies. The Zephyrians have hit 12 human worlds in the past day, all with gas weapons. all targeting civilian populations. Jake closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed. The survivors could see it in his face. "Sergeant Davis," Jake said. "Get these people to the ship. We're taking them to safety." "Yes, sir. What about the Zephyrians?" Jake looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, Zephyrian commanders were planning their next attack. They thought humans were weak because humans followed rules. "Contact Earth Command," Jake said. "Tell them we need to talk. It's time for a change." Back on the Liberty, Jake sent an encrypted message to every human ship in the sector. The message was short but clear. "The Zephyrians have chosen to fight without honor. They target our children and laugh while they die. For 30 years, we have shown them mercy. We have followed their rules. We have been the civilized ones." Jake paused, thinking of Amy's face. "No more. Effective immediately, all human forces are authorized to use Deathworld protocols. The gloves are coming off. Make them remember why we survived when our own planet tried to kill us." He sent the message and leaned back in his command chair. Around the bridge, his crew worked with new purpose. They had all lost someone today. The galaxy was about to learn something it had forgotten. Humans didn't come from a peaceful world. They came from a planet that had tried to kill them with ice ages, volcanic eruptions, deadly storms, and predators with claws and fangs. Humans had not only survived Earth, they had conquered it. Now they would show the galaxy what Deathworlders could really do when they stopped playing clean. Admiral Lisa Parker stood in the war room at Earth Command, watching the holographic display show red dots spreading across human space. Each red dot was a colony under attack. Each dot represented thousands of dead civilians. President Kevin Walsh entered the room with his security team. His face was grim. Behind him came General Robert Cruz, head of Earth's military forces, and Commander Ben Rodriguez from Special Operations. "How bad is it?" President Walsh asked. 15 colonies hit in the past 24 hours, Admiral Parker reported. All with banned weapons, gas attacks, biological agents, orbital bombardment of hospitals. The Zephyrians aren't just trying to win territory, they want to wipe us out. President Walsh moved to the main display. He had been president for 6 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The footage from New Portland played on side monitors, bodies in the streets, children who would never grow up. "What's our response been?" he asked. "Standard protocol," General Cruz answered. "Our fleets are moving to protect remaining colonies. We've sent formal complaints to the Galactic Council. We're following all treaty guidelines for war crimes documentation." "And how's that working out?" "The Zephyrians destroyed 2 more colonies while we were filing paperwork." President Walsh turned to Commander Rodriguez. "Ben, I want to hear about the other options." Rodriguez activated a secure terminal. "Sir, you're asking about the Deathworld protocols." "I'm asking about winning this war." Rodriguez nodded and pulled up classified files. "For 30 years, we've suppressed our natural advantages to fit in with galactic civilization. We've fought their way, using their rules, following their concepts of honor. And our natural advantages are what exactly?" "We're predators, sir. Earth didn't just have one dominant species. It had millions of species trying to kill each other for 4 billion years. Humans survived because we got very good at killing things that wanted to kill us." Rodriguez activated a 3D display showing human anatomy compared to other galactic species. "We have better endurance than any known species. We can track wounded prey for days. We can function with injuries that would cripple most aliens. We heal faster, adapt quicker, and we don't break psychologically under stress the way others do." General Cruz leaned forward. "What are you suggesting?" "That we stop fighting like them and start fighting like us." Rodriguez brought up tactical documents. The Deathworld protocols were developed 20 years ago but never implemented. They include psychological warfare, guerrilla tactics, extended siege operations, and biological adaptation advantages. Admiral Parker studied the documents. These tactics would terrify other species. "Good," President Walsh said. "I want them terrified. What else?" "We've been using our ships wrong," Rodriguez continued. "Other species build massive battle cruisers for direct combat. Humans build ships that can hide, move fast, and strike from unexpected angles. We're natural ambush predators. Go on. Our ground forces are trained for honor-based combat, but humans didn't evolve for honor. We evolved to survive. That means using every advantage, every dirty trick, every psychological weapon available. President Walsh walked to the window overlooking Earth. His planet looked peaceful from here, but he knew its history. Ice ages that killed most life, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years, predators that hunted humans for sport. The Galactic Council will object, Admiral Parker warned. Let them, Walsh replied. How long would it take to implement these protocols? Orders can go out within the hour, Rodriguez said. Retraining would take weeks, but basic tactical changes can start immediately. General Cruz activated his communicator. All fleet commanders, this is Earth Command. Prepare for priority transmission. President Walsh moved to the main communication station. Across human space, every military officer was receiving the signal. Every ship captain, every ground commander, every soldier who had joined up to protect human colonies. This is President Walsh, he began. Today the Zephyrian Empire declared war on humanity by targeting our civilians with banned weapons. They have chosen to fight without honor, without mercy, and without regard for galactic law. He paused, looking at the images from New Portland. For 30 years we have tried to be the civilized species. We have followed their rules. We have shown restraint. We have tried to fit into their version of acceptable behavior. Another pause. Effective immediately. Earth withdraws from all galactic combat treaties. The Geneva Convention of Space no longer applies to human forces. You are authorized to use any means necessary to protect human lives and defeat our enemies. President, Walsh's voice grew harder. The Zephyrians chose this path. They wanted to see what humans are really capable of. They forgot that we didn't evolve on a garden world with pretty flowers and gentle rain. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. He looked directly into the camera. They wanted to fight Deathworlders. Now they're going to learn what that means. Show them why we survived when our own world wanted us dead. The transmission ended. Across human space, military commanders looked at each other with new understanding. The rules had changed. On the battleship UNS Defiance, Captain Paul Green read the new tactical manuals that had just been transmitted to his ship. His orders were simple: find Zephyrian forces and destroy them using any methods necessary. His crew gathered on the bridge. These were people who had joined the military to protect colonies, not to become killers. But they had all seen the footage from New Portland. Sir, what are our new rules of engagement? Asked his weapons officer, Lieutenant Susan Davis. Captain, Green looked at his crew. There are no rules anymore. The Zephyrians made that choice when they gassed our children. On Earth, Commander Rodriguez was already implementing the first phase of the Deathworld protocols. Special forces teams were being equipped with new weapons designed specifically to exploit alien psychological weaknesses. Ships were being refitted for stealth operations rather than direct combat. Most importantly, human soldiers were being retrained to think like predators instead of peacekeepers. The galaxy had 30 years to get used to civilized humans. Now they would meet the humans who had survived saber-toothed tigers, ice ages, plagues, and natural disasters that would have ended most other species. Admiral Parker sent orders to Captain Jake Morrison aboard the UNS Liberty. His mission was simple: find the Zephyrian fleet responsible for New Portland and show them what Deathworlders could do when they stopped holding back. The war for human survival had begun, but this time, humanity would fight it their way. The Zephyrians had wanted to see human nature without civilized restraints. They were about to get their wish. Commander Sarah Mitchell watched her scanner display as 3 Zephyrian battleships approached Kepler Station. Her small patrol fleet was outnumbered and outgunned. Under the old rules, she would have called for backup and retreated to fight. Another day. The old rules were dead. All ships, this is the UNS Ranger. Sarah spoke into her communicator. We're implementing Protocol 7. You know what that means. Her task force included 4 light cruisers and 2 destroyers. Against 3 Zephyrian heavy battleships, it should have been no contest. The aliens had bigger guns, thicker armor, and more crew. But humans had advantages the Zephyrians didn't understand yet. "Commander, the Zephyrians are hailing us," reported Communications Officer Danny White. "Put them through." The main screen showed a Zephyrian commander with the typical reptilian features of his species. His name appeared as Fleet Commander Vex Kalar. He looked confident. "Human vessel," Vex Kalar spoke in accented Standard Galactic. "You are outmatched. Surrender now and your crew will be processed according to military regulations." Sarah smiled coldly. "Commander Vex Kalar, I have a different proposal. Leave now, and maybe some of your crew will live to see their families again." The Zephyrian commander laughed. "You have 6 small ships, I have 3 battle cruisers, you cannot win." "We'll see about that." Sarah cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "Lieutenant Tony Russell, are the special packages ready?" "Yes, ma'am. All ships have them loaded." "Good. Remember, we're not trying to destroy their ships. We want them to survive long enough to tell their friends what happened here." The Zephyrian fleet moved into attack formation. Their heavy weapons began charging. Sarah watched them approach with the confidence of predators who had never met anything that could challenge them. They were about to learn something new. "All ships, scatter formation. Hide in the asteroid field. Begin hunt protocol." Sarah's fleet broke apart, each ship diving toward the nearby asteroid belt. The Zephyrians fired their main guns, but the human ships were already gone, vanishing among the floating rocks. "Commander, we've lost target locks," reported the Zephyrian weapons officer aboard Vex Kalar's flagship. "Impossible. They're right there." But the human ships had disappeared into the asteroid field like ghosts. The Zephyrians moved forward, scanning for their prey. That was their first mistake. The UNS Ranger emerged from behind a large asteroid, fired a full spread of missiles, then vanished again before the Zephyrians could return fire. The missiles weren't designed to destroy the alien ship, just to damage its sensors and communications. "Sir, we have multiple impacts on the port side," a Zephyrian officer reported. "Sensors are down 40%. Before Vex Kalar could respond, another human ship attacked from a different angle. Then another. The humans were moving through the asteroid field like it was their natural environment, striking without warning and disappearing before retaliation. "This is impossible," Vex Kalar muttered. "How are they moving so fast?" His tactical officer provided the answer he didn't want to hear. "Sir, their ships are smaller and more maneuverable. They know this asteroid field better than we do." That wasn't entirely true. The human ships had only arrived an hour before, but their crews had something the Zephyrians lacked: millions of years of evolution as hunters. They could track movement patterns, predict behavior, and set ambushes instinctively. The UNS Hunter, commanded by Captain Jerry Adams, had positioned itself perfectly. When the lead Zephyrian battleship moved past a large asteroid, Adams fired everything he had at point-blank range. The Zephyrian ship's shields collapsed. Hull breaches opened across 3 decks. But Jerry Adams wasn't trying to destroy the ship. He was following the new protocols. "Launch the boarding pods," Adams ordered. Staff Sergeant Danny Cooper led the Marine boarding party onto the damaged Zephyrian ship. His team wore full combat gear designed for the new warfare doctrine. They moved through the alien corridors like shadows. The Zephyrians expected a standard boarding action: secure the bridge, capture the officers, follow prisoner of war protocols. They were wrong. Cooper's Marines had studied Zephyrian psychology. They knew these reptilian aliens feared darkness more than humans feared anything, so they cut the ship's power, plunging entire sections into blackness. Then they began to hunt. Humans could see in low light conditions better than most species. They could move silently through unfamiliar terrain. Most importantly, they could function as individual hunters instead of requiring group formations. The Zephyrian crew found themselves being picked off one by one in the darkness. They would hear strange sounds in the corridors. Then their comrades would simply disappear. When they found the bodies later, each one had a small human military tag attached. "Greetings from New Portland, sir," a panicked Zephyrian officer called over the communicator. "The humans aren't trying to capture the ship, they're playing with us." That was exactly right. Cooper's Marines were following psychological warfare protocols designed to break enemy morale rather than simply win battles. On the bridge of Vex Kalar's flagship, the situation was getting desperate. 2 of his ships had been boarded. His own vessel was under constant attack from human ships that appeared and disappeared like phantoms. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," his communications officer reported. It's from our own ships." "Put it through." The speakers crackled, then filled with an eerie sound. Human voices singing something in their native language. The melody was haunting and beautiful, but the Zephyrian crew found it terrifying. Lieutenant Russell, monitoring from the UNS Ranger, smiled as the psychological warfare took effect. The song was an old human battle hymn, but to alien ears it sounded like the voices of ghosts. "Sir, our crew is requesting permission to surrender," reported Vex Kalar's first officer. "We cannot surrender to a numerically inferior force. High Command would have us executed." "Sir, with respect, High Command has never fought humans who weren't following galactic combat regulations." That was the truth. For 30 years, humans had fought like civilized galactic citizens. They had shown mercy, followed rules, and protected prisoners. The Zephyrians had gotten used to that version of humanity. This was something entirely different. The UNS Defender, Captain Lisa Thompson commanding, delivered the final blow. Instead of destroying the remaining Zephyrian ships, Thompson used a new tactic. Her crew had modified several cargo containers to look like escape pods. When the Zephyrians detected what appeared to be human survivors abandoning ship, they moved to capture them. It was the merciful thing to do, and it would provide valuable prisoners for interrogation. The containers were actually filled with recordings of the New Portland massacre, detailed information about human military capabilities, and a message from President Walsh himself. When the Zephyrian crews opened the containers expecting to find prisoners, they instead found evidence of their own war crimes and a promise of what would happen to anyone who continued to target human civilians. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, all 3 Zephyrian ships were intact but completely demoralized. Their crews had been psychologically broken by an enemy they didn't understand. Commander Vex Kalar sent a message to his high command before leaving the system. "Do not engage human forces with standard tactics. They are not fighting the same war we are." Sarah Mitchell watched the Zephyrian fleet retreat and smiled grimly. Her task force had suffered minimal casualties while completely defeating a superior force. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about the difference between civilized humans and Deathworlders who had stopped playing by someone else's rules. Word of the Battle of Kepler Station spread quickly through both human and alien communication networks. The message was clear. Humanity had changed the rules of the game. The Zephyrians had wanted a war. Now they had one. But it wasn't the war they had expected to fight. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with representatives from 47 different species. Ambassador Helen Wright sat at the human delegation table, watching as alien diplomats argued about humanity's new military doctrine. The Alterian delegate, a tall, blue-skinned humanoid named Zex Thara, stood at the central podium. His voice carried across the chamber with practiced outrage. "The humans have abandoned all pretense of civilization," Zex Thara declared. "Their attacks on Zephyrian forces show complete disregard for the laws of war. They use psychological torture, fear tactics, and primitive hunting behaviors." Murmurs of agreement came from several species. The crystalline delegate from the collective chimed in with harmonic tones that translated as disgust. Council Speaker Mortandis, an elderly member of the Peaceful Luminari, called for order. Ambassador Wright, the Council recognizes the human delegation. Helen stood slowly. She had been Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 8 years. She had always been diplomatic, reasonable, willing to compromise. Today was different. "Thank you, Council Speaker," Helen said. Her voice carried across the silent chamber. "I've listened to the accusations against my species with great interest. Let me address them directly." She activated a holographic display, showing footage from New Portland. The chamber fell completely silent as images of dead children appeared in the air. This is what the Zephyrian Empire calls civilized warfare, Helen continued. Nerve gas attacks on schools and hospitals, biological weapons used against civilian populations, systematic genocide disguised as military action. The Zephyrian delegate, General Rex Modar, rose from his seat. Those were legitimate military targets. The humans had military personnel stationed at those facilities. My sister was a doctor, Helen replied. She was treating sick children when your forces murdered her with banned weapons. Please explain to this council how a pediatric medical clinic constitutes a legitimate military target. Rex Motor had no answer. For 30 years, humanity has followed every galactic convention, Helen continued. We have shown mercy to enemies who deserved none. We have followed rules of engagement that our opponents ignored. We have tried to be the civilized members of this community that you claim to want. She paused, letting her words sink in. The question before this council is not whether humanity's new tactics are civilized. The question is why you expect us to remain civilized. While our enemies commit genocide, the Alterian delegate interrupted. The humans use fear as a weapon. They break their enemies psychologically before engaging in combat. This is barbaric behavior. And gassing children isn't barbaric? Helen shot back. Let me tell you what human fear tactics actually accomplished. At the Battle of Kepler Station, Commander Sarah Mitchell's forces defeated 3 enemy battleships without killing a single Zephyrian crew member. Every enemy soldier survived to return to their families. She activated another display showing casualty reports from recent battles. Human forces using these new tactics have achieved a 93% enemy survival rate. Our barbaric psychological warfare results in fewer deaths than your civilized direct combat methods. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Several delegates checked their own data feeds to verify Helen's numbers. Council Speaker Moore Tandis called for quiet. Ambassador Wright, are you suggesting that human terror tactics are actually more humane than conventional warfare? I'm suggesting that humans understand something this council has forgotten. The point of warfare is not to kill your enemies. The point is to make them stop fighting. Dead soldiers can't surrender. Broken soldiers can. General Rex Modar stood. Again. The humans dishonor their enemies. They do not grant the dignity of clean death in battle. Helen smiled coldly. You want clean death in battle? You forfeited that privilege when you murdered our children. But since you brought up honor, let me share something interesting. She activated a new display showing communication intercepts from Zephyrian military channels. These are recordings of your officers laughing while they deployed nerve gas on New Portland. Here's one discussing which human colony to attack next based on which would kill the most civilians. And here's my personal favorite, your high command planning to use human prisoners for biological weapon testing. The chamber fell silent again. You want to talk about honor and civilization? You lost the right to claim either when you decided that human children were acceptable military targets. While Helen spoke at the Galactic Council, Captain Ryan Johnson was leading the largest human military operation since the war began. His fleet of 20 ships approached the Zephyrian home system. The planet Keth Prime had been the center of Zephyrian civilization for 1,000 years. It had never been attacked by an outside force. The planetary defenses were designed to repel traditional fleet assaults. They were not designed to stop Deathworlders who had learned new ways to fight. All ships, this is the UNS Vengeance, Ryan announced. Remember, we're not here to destroy their world. We're here to show them what happens when you target our families. The human fleet didn't approach Keth Prime like a conventional invasion force. Instead of massive battleships charging toward the planet, they used small, fast ships that could avoid detection. Major Kate Sullivan commanded the ground assault forces. Her Marines had trained for this mission using tactics that other species would never consider. Instead of trying to capture military bases, they targeted the infrastructure that made modern civilization possible. Power plants, water treatment, facilities, communication networks, transportation hubs. Remember, Kate told her squad leaders, we want to disable, not destroy. The goal is to make them understand that we can take apart their entire civilization if we choose to. The assault began at midnight, Keth Prime local time. Human ships bypassed the orbital defenses by hiding in the planet's asteroid belt, then launching small assault craft under cover of natural space debris. The Zephyrian defenders expected a frontal assault on their military installations. Instead, they found human special forces teams moving through their cities like ghosts, systematically shutting down everything that made their society function. The power grid went down first, then water distribution, communication satellites were disabled by small charges that cut transmission lines without destroying the expensive equipment. Within 12 hours, the most advanced planet in the Zephyrian Empire was reduced to pre-industrial conditions. No lights, no running water. No long-distance communication, no transportation except walking. But here was the crucial difference. No civilians were harmed. Human forces went out of their way to avoid casualties. Medical facilities were left untouched. Food distribution continued under human supervision. The Zephyrian Military Command found themselves in an impossible situation. They could not defend against an enemy that refused to fight conventional battles. Every time they moved forces to one location, the humans simply attacked somewhere else. General Vakthara, Supreme Commander of Keth Prime's defenses, stood in his bunker watching reports come in from across the planet. His forces outnumbered the humans 10-1, but the numbers meant nothing. "Sir, the humans have taken control of the main spaceport," an aide reported. "They're not destroying our ships. They're just making sure we can't launch them." "What about civilian casualties?" "None reported, sir. The humans seem to be avoiding civilian areas entirely." That was the most frightening thing of all. The humans could have killed millions of Zephyrian civilians in revenge for New Portland. Instead, they had chosen to demonstrate their capability without using it. The message was clear. We can destroy your entire civilization anytime we want, but we're choosing not to. This time. On the third day of the siege, Major Sullivan established a communication link with General Vakthara. The conversation was brief but memorable. "General, this is Major Kate Sullivan of the Human Assault Forces. Are you ready to discuss terms?" "What are your demands?" Vakthara asked. "Unconditional surrender of all Zephyrian forces, immediate cessation of attacks on human colonies, reparations for the civilians you murdered, and a public apology from your government." "And if we refuse?" Kate looked around at the darkened city below her position. "General, in 72 hours we've reduced your homeworld to the Stone Age without killing a single civilian. Imagine what we could accomplish if we decided to stop being merciful." The surrender came 6 hours later. Back at the Galactic Council, Ambassador Helen Wright received news of the victory on Keth Prime. She shared the information with the assembled delegates. "The Zephyrian government has surrendered unconditionally," she announced. "Total human casualties, 14 wounded, none killed. Total Zephyrian military casualties, less than 50 wounded, none killed. Total civilian casualties, 0. The chamber was completely silent. "This is what human barbarity looks like," Helen continued. "We conquered the homeworld of our enemies in 3 days while killing fewer people than die in traffic accidents on most of your worlds during the same time period." She looked directly at the Alterian delegate. "We are Deathworlders. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. When we fight without restrictions, we don't become mindless killers. We become the most efficient predators in the galaxy." The massive alien ship hung in space like a dark metal mountain. Its hull stretched for miles, covered in weapons that could destroy planets. Inside the command center, Commander Zexathul stood before a wall of screens showing the small blue world ahead. His 6 arms moved across control panels as his red eyes focused on the target. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance. White clouds swirled over green and brown continents. The third planet from the yellow star seemed quiet and harmless. Zexathul knew better. The humans living on that world had caused nothing but trouble since first contact 50 years ago. "Send the message," Zexathul ordered. His voice was cold and sharp. The communication officer, a thin alien with purple skin, pressed several buttons. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. Far away on Titan Station, Admiral Jake Morrison sat in his command chair watching the incoming transmission. The orbital defense platform floated high above Earth, its metal corridors filled with human soldiers and officers. Morrison was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in 3 wars and seen too much death. Lieutenant Katie Walsh stood beside him, her fingers dancing over her control panel. She was young with short brown hair and quick hands. Her job was to track enemy ships and plan battle tactics. Today she watched the alien fleet gathering at the edge of their solar system. The hologram flickered and Zexthul's image appeared on their screens. His alien face was hard to read, but his message was clear. Humans of Earth, you have ignored the laws of the galactic hegemony for too long. Your ships attack our traders. Your colonies spread without permission. Your people refuse to follow our rules. Morrison leaned forward in his chair. He had expected this day would come. The aliens had been getting angrier for years. They did not like how humans acted. They wanted all species to obey their commands. You have 72 hours, Zexthul continued. Surrender all your military ships. Give up your weapons. Accept our control over your world. If you refuse, we will destroy every human in the galaxy. The transmission ended. The command center fell silent. Morrison looked around at his officers. He could see fear in some faces, anger in others. Katie Walsh was already working on her computer, counting enemy ships. How many do they have? Morrison asked. Over 3,000 ships, sir, Katie replied. Battleships, destroyers, planet crackers. They brought everything. Morrison nodded slowly. 3,000 ships against humanity's few hundred vessels. The aliens thought this would be easy. They believed humans were weak and stupid. They had no idea what they were about to face. Get me Dr. Carter, Morrison ordered. A few minutes later, Dr. Alex Carter appeared on the main screen. He was a thin man with messy black hair and thick glasses. His laboratory was deep underground on Earth, hidden beneath layers of rock and metal. For 20 years, he had worked on humanity's most secret project. You saw the message? Morrison asked. Yes, Carter replied. Are we activating Protocol 7? Morrison was quiet for a moment. Protocol 7 was humanity's last hope. It was also their most dangerous weapon. Once activated, there would be no going back. The galaxy would never be the same. Not yet, Morrison said. But get everything ready. If they want a war, we will give them one they will never forget. Meanwhile, on the alien flagship, Zexthul studied reports about human military strength. The data showed 400 ships, basic fusion weapons, and primitive armor. The humans had no psychic abilities like the Velthari. They lacked the advanced technology of the Axiom Collective. They were just young animals from a backwater planet. This will be over quickly, said Fleet Admiral Cornash, the overall commander of the alien forces. He was even larger than Zexthul, with thick armor covering his body. Humans are soft. They will surrender when they see our power. But Cornash was wrong about humans being soft. He had never visited Earth. He did not know about the ice ages that nearly killed all life on the planet. He had never heard of the supervolcano eruptions that blocked out the sun for years. He knew nothing about the asteroid impacts that destroyed the dinosaurs. The aliens came from garden worlds. Their planets were safe and peaceful. Food grew easily. The weather was always nice. Dangerous animals were rare. Their species had evolved in comfort and safety. Earth was different. Earth was a death world. For millions of years, Earth had tried to kill everything living on it. Ice covered the continents. Volcanoes poisoned the air. Diseases wiped out entire species. Only the strongest and smartest creatures survived. Humans were the children of that death world. Every challenge had made them stronger. Every disaster had taught them to adapt. Every near extinction had forced them to become more clever and more determined. Dr. Carter knew this truth. As he prepared Protocol 7 for activation, he thought about what made humans special. They were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest or the most advanced, but they were survivors. Activate the first level systems, Carter told his team. Around him, scientists and engineers began their work. They had spent decades preparing for this moment. Deep beneath Earth's surface, hidden factories began to wake up. Secret weapon systems came online. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives got ready for the fight of their existence. Admiral Morrison walked to the window of his command center. Far below, Earth turned slowly in space. It looked beautiful and fragile, but Morrison knew better. That small blue world had created the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Now those predators were about to show the universe what happened when you threatened their home. The countdown had begun. In 72 hours, the aliens would learn why you should never corner a Deathworld's children.